All right, here we go.
Alright, here we are. Devil's Den Lake. Never been. Sarah came with me. The GoPro camera woman. She's snooping around up on the hill. No going out eyesight or else. A little bit of a hum in the background. I think some dirt bikes a couple miles over. Anyways, not a very big lake. It's probably... How long did it take us to drive here from the house?
12 minutes?
10, 12 minutes. All right. All right, it's a good place to share some names or share some voices from anyway. Well, let's get right into it. Man, it's been raving frickin' fest here. And Eagles. There we go, listen to this. My winter with a predator. Hello again, Steve. I live in a southern city of 300,000 people. As with most southern cities, ours has thick forest greenways running through it. I live in a townhouse community situated next to an elementary school. There's a quarter block of natural woods that buffers us from the school. The school owns the woods. My yard ends at a road, then a retaining wall, and finally the woods. We get plenty of rabbits, foxes, possums, deer, and occasional coyotes. I lost my husband to ALS 7 years before. Sorry to hear that. I live alone with a 120-pound gun dog. He is a Weimaraner. Weimaraner? Never been hunting, but he carries all the instinct traits of the breed. When seeing the local fauna, my dog alerts and quietly positions himself between the animal and myself. Schools went to remote learning as of March 2020, returning as of spring 2021. The first 7 months, the woods became dense and overgrown. One night, I took my dad out for an evening constitutional. Immediately upon exiting the back door, he froze. His hackles went up. Tail was tucked and his nose/ears were trained on the woods. I immediately noticed we were in a dead zone. My ears felt pressure and my hair turned to wire. We backed into the house. My gut told me we might have a predator in the woods. There have been sightings of black panthers in North Carolina. We have a sports team named after them. The next night we stepped onto our lawn The next night, we stepped onto our lawn. The dog was on point, and once again, dead silence. Hey! Third night out, I could hear the crickets. We walked to our lawn, and bam, everything went silent. My hair became like wire, and I felt a pressure. I then felt a zap in my spine and the base of my head. I started to say the Lord's Prayer out loud until we were back inside. We turned out all the lights and went upstairs to my bedroom. We sat on the bed and watched TV in the dark. Something clearly knocked on the window next to my bed. I didn't look out. My dog and I were terrified. The window is 10 feet above my deck. Just as I tried to convince myself it was a bird or an insect, something slapped the wall my bed is on. Then came bipedal walking on my roof. Holy shit, that would suck. I made changes. Dog potty time was done while the sun was up. I put up solar motion detector floods. We changed our routine. I had occasion one night to be outside. There was a huge dog coming my way. At first I thought it was a Great Dane. There was something wrong. It was too big, and although it was on all fours, the anatomy was all wrong. I think I may have seen a dog man. With spring came a reopening of the schools. The caretakers thinned out all the bushes and vines in the woods. The schoolyard is visible now. Out of nowhere, the electric company came out and replaced the street lights to a brighter white light. The insect noises came back. Our world returned to normal. The animals are still missing, but we've had no weirdness since spring of 2021. I mentioned what was going on in your comment section. Several First Nations people answered. They advised me to contact tribal people. I was told it sounded like a dog man. I'd already made the changes they suggested. I always listen to my intuition and follow my gut. Regards, Roxanne. Okay, Roxanne. Thanks for that email. And I'm glad you're safe. And I have a feeling you're right. I think it is one of those things. From the handful of people who have had email in that something's walking on the roof, it's never been a Sasquatch. Those things don't walk on roofs. Not that I know of, but I can't imagine them. A Sasquatch being able to walk on a roof without punching a hole through it, right? And there's got to be something dead around here.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Look at the water over there. So over here. Oh, right now.
Oh, it's showering. That looks pretty wild. All right, I better keep reading. In case it just starts pouring. But anyway, thanks again for sending that in. I'm glad to hear you made those changes and everything's back to normal, because that would be a real shitty thing to have one of those things terrorizing your frickin' home nonstop. Not good. It's starting to rain. Hopefully the camera stays dry enough, long enough. Tan pants and a tan shirt. I think this is the follow-up probably from that other email a little while ago. Feel free to use my name, Jack Smith from South Carolina. My encounter, which was very close, thought I was looking at a man in a heavy coat. It took almost till the end of my encounter before I realized what I was looking at. I'm sure it takes a few seconds to understand what you're looking at. So, if it was just a few moments, it would be hard to make any sense of what you saw. I'm not a psychologist, but I would think the reasons you never want to speak with your friends that were with you is because you don't want to be reminded of what you had experienced and need to get it out of your mind, just not wanting to be reminded. I don't like talking to friends about my encounter and certainly don't want to see one again. It helps to watch your channel. Not sure about other people, but it's nice to not be alone. So, I'd like to thank you for your channel, and you do a great job letting people know they're not crazy or alone. Thanks again, sir, and stay safe. And thank you, man. The only reason this channel's helping people is because of people like you. That's the only reason. Man, it looks like it's absolutely pouring on the lake, but nothing's touching me here. It's weird. Just so you guys know, just over that hill is where I had things being thrown at me. McCoy Lake Road isn't too far away that way, where my neighbor who owns McCoy Lake Gravel Pit, him and his family had a scary encounter with something just over there. This is, of course, Devil's Den Lake. And the First Nations man who ran into me with his kid while I was on the quad of the river and told us about the female and the young one that was on McCoy Lake Road for a long time is right here. So there you go. These eagles and ravens are going ape shit. Anyway, I'll keep trying to read smoothly. Everything's cool here. I don't feel threatened or anything. It's all fine. Another door that was open for me. I wrote you before, Steve, about a Sabbath situation I'd gotten into, and that story is published in your book. Since your very first episode on YouTube, that's right, I've been a subscriber, and that many years now. I've religiously watched your channel. This story is not one of the Sabbath, but yet just another door eventually this topic will open. When I was a young 6 to 8 years old, I remember tramping through the mud puddles in my new Mickey Mouse boots out front of my house, doing what kids do, and an object maybe 50 yards above me went right over me. It was doing maybe 20 miles an hour. It wasn't going very fast. I remember half the block I lived on coming outside and witnessing what I saw. It had various lights underneath it and was, I'd say, 50 feet in radius. So I ran inside and told my mother, who knew by the look on my face. She took me serious, and we ran down the street together, which, by the way, dead-ended into a school maybe 3 blocks away from my home. My mother knew by seeing all the people outside looking up in the sky, really knew I was not making things up. By the time we got to school, football/baseball field, it was already gone, but it left a huge burnt ring in the school's field. My mother, who was 78 years old, kept the newspaper clipping all these years. This is before mobile phones, or I would have took picture after picture. It was in the late 70s, absolutely in Salinas, California. Since then, I've looked into a website that has something about every sighting to date, MUFON, or some name like that. I was young and kind of just put my sighting away in a lost memory bank until now and decided I'd share. Years down the road, a couple years ago or less, I wrote to you about I coming across a Sabbath in Brasstown, North Carolina. I believe that you won't see one of them Sabbaths unless they want you to. It's always made me wonder if these sightings... Sorry, I just keep seeing the branches are moving in the wind and the horizon of the rock, and it's catching my attention. I gotta keep an eye on her so she doesn't disappear. Sorry. It's always made me wonder if these sightings I've had have anything to do with each other in one way or another. Like they knew I was no threat. I don't know. But something in my gut tells me I'm no threat and they know it. Thanks for your time again. Hope all is well as it can be with you. Hope all is well as it can be with you over there in Canada. Our world's going to shit in a handbag. So I live each day like it was my last. See you in your next video. Take care. Thomas Harris. This UFO site was documented, proof found in Salinas, California, late 70s, MUFON website. All right. As you guys know, I don't really hit the UFO sightings too often. I try not to encourage it because obviously it's so common. This channel, my inbox would be clobbered with UFO sightings. We all know that the government's finally admitting to the people. Like I need the government for anything. I don't need the government for anything. I don't give a shit what they say. I don't give a shit what they admit to. I don't care. It's all about us, the people. The government works for the people, which is us. So anyway, on a quick note on the UFO thing, as far as I'm concerned, one of the reasons why we do not have ultimate knowledge of these UFOs or contact with these other people is because I have a pretty good feeling it's because these advanced people would probably show us that we are surrounded with energy and we don't have to pay anybody for it. I'll bet you that is a big factor when it comes to the general population being enlightened to this other intelligence that keeps coming around us from the sky, right? I'll bet you that's why. All we do is invade other countries over energy, make tons of money over energy, wars are fought over energy. It's all about energy and the almighty dollar and the frickin' control and being the man, right? And if the human population was enlightened too, that we can extract the energy from all around us because we are energy, everything's energy, well, it wouldn't work out too good for the narcissistic control freak bastards, right? Anyway, I'll bite my lip. Let's keep going on. Man, I can hear eagles. I can hear ravens. All right, possible encounter in East Central Alabama. Thanks for sending that in, all right? Appreciate your time sending that email to be shared with all the people through me. Hey, Steve, I don't care if you use my name. I hope you and Sarah are doing well. Short encounter, but one that I questioned at the time and reconciled later after listening to your channel and others. We were fishing the Little Tallapoosa River upstream of the future R.L. Harris Reservoir, Lake Wedowee, in the early 80s when I was around 13 years old. My friend's family had purchased a lot on the river and were camping there periodically. This particular night we were baiting and checking poles on the bank of the river using a flat-bottomed aluminum boat with a small outboard. The Little Tallapoosa at that time was a small, medium-sized river during a dry period, so there were exposed rocks, fallen trees, etc. I hope this wind isn't licking the camera too bad. To the west was a sandy deposition plain, and to the west was a vertical shale rock. All right, so to the west was a sandy deposition plain, and to the west was a vertical shale rock. So we'll flip the coin for which one was east. Rock face, approximately 30 to 40 feet in height. We had a 12-volt spotlight that we were using to light up the riverbank for baiting and retrieving fish. The entire night we were experiencing splashes in the river, especially on the downriver runs. Our friend's dad was convinced that it was a large carp rolling over the surface due to the light we were using. However, instinctively, we all knew that the splashes were from rocks or some other projectiles hitting the water just by the sound. Prior to camping there, my friend's family had warned us that there were unnerving screams that would occur during the night coming from the shale cliff. They attributed this to bobcats, even though I never saw anything. I'm convinced we were being discouraged from being there by the Sabbath people that inhabited that area for hundreds of years with no encroachment. Thank you, David Arthur. All right, Dave, thanks, man. Just the fact that you shared that and the location. If there's a bunch of shit going on around there, somebody watching this channel is going to be familiar with it, and they're going to comment in the comment section below, or they're going to come forward and they're going to share something with us through an email to me, without a doubt. It's just the way it's going now, right? Far, far too many people are watching the channel, and it's just too many people here now. I think we've basically got North America covered geographically with names and descriptions for people to go, I've been there, or I seen something there, or my dad saw something there, or whatever, right? Somebody's going to email in about that same place. There's another one. Answer to question about why people will avoid others after a sighting. Perfect. Hello, Steve. You asked on your April 9th, 2022, why people avoid each other after they have experienced a sighting together. Number one, exposure to any traumatic event which they perceive to be life-threatening causes PTSD. Number two, PTSD is more common than most of the general public understands. It is hugely prevalent, but is not recognized by the victim or family members unless it is severe. As with any mental health issue, there are different levels of severity, and is not something the victim wants to acknowledge. Number three, after a traumatic event, as in the cases here of seeing a Sabbath, the reason it is avoided conversation, association, or recollection is because anything that relates to the trauma will bring symptoms out. Number four, people with PTSD can and will bear the incident in order to survive and not have to cope with the emotions that are associated with it. Number five, after the experience, avoiding places, people, or situations that are similar to the experience is not unusual. Any of the five senses that can or could be associated with the trauma are avoided also. Number six, failure to compartmentalize these situations can and will cause a complete and total meltdown. Periods of dissociative figures. That's actually memory lapses, lost time, and even physical symptoms. Number seven, there is hope. Anyone who feels they have PTSD and would like to take control of their lives can seek therapy, specifically EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or brain spotting, which are two therapies that are very promising in recovering from this diagnosis. Hopefully this will help others understand that PTSD can come from any traumatic event, which includes Sabbath sightings. Sincerely, a registered nurse with PTSD. All right. Very helpful. Exactly what we're after, help. Any kind of help we can. Anything that helps the people, right? And just so you guys know, I mentioned earlier, a close friend of mine, a lifelong firefighter, first responder, seen every hell-ass thing that we don't want to see. He went to a place in Vancouver, and I forget, it was 12 weeks or 16 weeks to deal with it. I believe they lost one of their classmates. They'd get there soon enough. But he's absolutely changed everything for him, and he made a recovery. Just so you guys know. Thanks again for sharing that. Absolutely appreciate it. All right, here we got one with photographs. I'll have to put these photos in later. I hope that wind isn't killing that microphone. All right, this is titled Pemberton, where I was last living. Hi, Steve. My name is Tori. Please feel free to use my name and pictures as may be necessary. I'm a former Pemby boy, but we're talking Pemby prior to Petro-Can and Vinyl Village. That's a long time ago, man. I was involved heavily in the backcountry ski and snowboard industry for more than 20 years. And spent more than 100 days a year on a sled, in a cat, or helicopter during the winter, in areas between Tricuni, Cayush, and Tankpool Lake areas as the operations manager for one of the Sea to Sky's leading backcountry heli/snowcat operations. As I spend a lot of time sliding around during the winter and scouting out the areas, usually on foot during the summer, luckily I've never had an experience whatsoever with a Sasquatch. Okay, that's gotta be too much, man. Maybe not. Luckily, I've never had an experience whatsoever with a Sasquatch, and in all honesty, I am thankful that I haven't. And I'm hoping never to cross paths with one either. Now, that doesn't mean I don't know that they're out there. I'm a firm believer, and I know quite a few people who have come close to the creatures. Okay, I'm gonna move the camera out of the wind. All right. See if this works out all right. See, doing too much wind right here. All right. I've never had experience whatsoever with a Sasquatch, and in all honesty, I'm thankful that I haven't, and I'm hoping to never cross paths with one either. Shit. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't know that they're out there. I'm a firm believer, and I know quite a few people who have came close to the creatures. I've absolutely no problem asking people if they ever came across one, and I've come across some great encounters from others over the years, including a couple of credible long-time Pemberton Gates Lake residents, whom we probably both know. And I have a feeling I know who you're talking about. Anyways, I've attached a few pics from a friend of mine who works the power lines in northern BC/Alaska Highway. He just sent me a few pics of prints he came across on a line clearing near the 160-mile mark on the Alaska Highway. I'd love to hear what you think. All I can think is, holy F. They look huge to me, and the stride length definitely isn't human, especially through the snow. Looks like a pair striding side by side, or the same creature using a line more than once. Hope you like the shots, and thanks for your channel. I enjoy starting the day with your stories. And if I ever come across one or more of these efforts in the woods, I'm going to blame it all on you. Thanks for the hard work, man. Take care, and all the best always, Tori. Thanks, Tori. All right, I'll share these on the video, but just at a first glance, obviously you can see the toes, you can see the size, and that's not a four-legged creature. That's two creatures, two track lines for sure. How can I tell? I can tell because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 perfectly square as it goes along, not staggered. Looks pretty big. Pretty crazy. But hey, Tori, if you got some more stories from back in the hood, then you remember vividly, email them into me, all right? Especially if you can remember exactly where. And obviously that Tricuni is where that those guys videotaped that one down in the snow in the basin there below. You know as well as I do, especially all the areas. Sea to Sky, Pemberton, down the lake. It's endless. Endless. All right. What's this? Next one. Title, no subject. Hey Steve, just can't say enough about your channel. What a great way to address and show this topic without a tampon commercial to interrupt us. I myself had many experiences that started when I was about 6 years old. I guess the best way to explain these experiences would be with several emails, starting from the beginning and keep them as brief as possible. In the fall of '71, I was taking a classmate home after a football game and hit something. I drove completely over it. Boom, boom. We got out, looked around, couldn't find a thing. Odd, I thought. We didn't see a thing. A few days later, I noticed a rather large dent and splash on the splash pan under the bumper. It was perfectly round and deep, maybe a little more than a foot across and 3 to 4 inches deep, like I'd hit the butt cheek of something. Damned, I never saw it. So, anyway, one of our classmates had been attacked while doing some studying and night maneuvers out in the boonies. He was in his van with a young lady whom he never disclosed. I guess a gentleman never does. Tell, darn it. His description of his attacker was about 4 feet tall, covered in hair. When I asked him to take me to the area where it happened, his response was, "No, man, no way." And Steve, this fellow was way over 6 feet tall and was one of us who could easily hunt bears with a stick. He was shaking in his boots. I was determined then I was going to hunt it. Boy, oh boy, was I in for a ride. My family and another had a cabin way out of town. We'd go out there and shoot a few squirrels and have a cookout. Shoot the breeze, have a few cold adult beverages, and just enjoy our weekend. Anyway, at some point, a large camper had been pulled alongside the cabin structure and hastily being added to the cabin. I never really paid much attention to it, but I could see where a hole had been cut in the wall to attach the trailer to the cabin. One visit, I poked my head in there just to see what was going on, and I saw a rather large nest made out of brush. Once again, odd. Never gave it much thought. So one weekend, 2 friends and I set out to have a quiet evening in the woods. At about 1 or 2 in the morning, we were woke by the slamming of the trailer door. And something hit the cabin with such force, I thought it was going to come down on us. I told everyone to get their belongings, so I pulled my .30-06 out of its case. I filled the Coleman lantern, lit it, and we began our trek back to the truck. It shouted us just out of the light, back to my vehicle. I'm sure it knew what the rifle was and kept its distance. I wasn't scared off, but I did change my mind about hunting it later on. Yeah, no doubt. I don't think I turned 21 yet, but finding old cabins and nests in them told me I wasn't the only bad mama jama in the woods. I did a lot of hunting and exploring. I'm not going to say where, because I don't think they deserve to be persecuted. Finding the nests was more than a gift, I thought. I can't think of an animal that collects stuff to make a comfy bed in the outdoors except a man. I like watching the birds. They come back every year and hatch out their young in front of me. I feel honored they picked me and know they won't be disturbed. People who know me know I'm a straight shooter, no BS. I told my stories. Some were very interested and asked questions. Others may have gone around the corner and snickered, but not right in front of me. Thanks for your platform to help others with their understanding and education. God bless you and your family, Steve. More to follow. Just didn't want to tie you up with my petty encounters. Ha ha, Doc. Okay, Doc. Hey, man, so it's really common for a lot of people to talk about seeing nests, quote, nests. And there's a few mosquitoes out here. And one thing I point out to probably everybody is when I'm in the woods, it doesn't matter what game species are around, when you see where it's easy to find beds for deer, beds for elk, beds for moose, even bear beds at times. But 110% of those impressions where the game lays, there's always hair there, fur, hairs, fur, individual fur pieces, hair pieces, whatever you want to call it, but they're always there every single time. So I'm always kind of somewhat surprised when a lot of people claim that they come across Sasquatch, quote, nests, end quote. And for all you out there listening who possibly do, go back and have a look at what you believe is a nest. And if you can't find any hair in it, it's not one. Okay? Especially if they use it even for one night. There isn't a deer bed anywhere where I can't see the hairs just from standing up 6 feet in the air and looking down and picking them out. Because I know they're there. Learned it years ago and I watch for it all the time. So anything covered in hair or fur that lays down on sticks and shit for the whole night is gonna drop some hairs. There you go. Anyway, thanks for that email in. And you want to share more, keep it coming, all right? If you got more stuff that's going to help the people at all, email us at sharemystory@howtohunt.com, all right? There's so many noises going on the wind. Sarah's over there farting around. It's tough for me to read that smoothly. I hope I'm not butchering everything too badly, but let's do this one more. Wendigo. That's the title of this one. Hi, Steve. You can share my name. Apologize if this takes too long. I'll watch your YouTube channel every chance I get. I'm thinking about this for a while now and thought it's time to share it. When I was a kid, I enjoyed the stories I heard as they were told to me by my late dad, my uncle, and some of my dad's friends, and by my grandfather. Stories about Wendigo. In the Cree language, we say, Witigo, cannibal. A large supernatural human-like being was conjured up by medicine men to go and kill everyone in a community. Not sure for what reason, but it must have been some kind of rivalry happening or just plain hate. Before that, the arrival of this being in a community, the weather would change and it would get cold and sometimes stormy. As this being got closer, it would let out a yell and a scream, and there was always that bad smell. The beast would attack, kill, and eat everyone in the community. Well, that would suck. I also heard that sometimes a person would become Wendigo if they accidentally ate or was fed their spirit animal, like a prairie chicken, bear, moose, etc. A spirit animal is said to be an animal that comes to you in a dream and speaks to you. A lot of times it was a curse placed upon a person by a shaman to turn them into a cannibal. The person would start getting chills and then become cold, and the area around them would start to ice up. The weather would change. Their appearance would change. They would smear themselves with human feces all over their body and chew off their lips to expose their teeth. The cold would cause people to get drowsy, and the cannibal then scream and start attacking the villagers, kill them, and eat them. The one not affected by the cold or fear of this Wetigo would be the one to fight it. Usually the medicine man / shaman, and if they killed it, they had to bury it deep, deep into the ground. These are some scary stories / legends I remember hearing as a kid years ago. Nothing like that happens now. But anyway, I've heard you mention at least a couple times on how and if the Sasquatch wanted to clean out a small community, it probably could in little time. Some of the stories you've shared remind me of the stories I've heard as a kid, especially about the bad smell, the screams, and how some say it's like a supernatural, human-like being. It makes me wonder if Sasquatch was this Wetigo that was conjured up by medicine men of old. I've been asking various people from my community lately if they've ever had sightings or have had Sasquatch encounters, and there are actually people out here in the surrounding backwoods communities that have had sightings. I never doubt it because many people have also had UFO sightings. I myself have had a few UFO and orb sightings. I recently had an orange-reddish orb follow me down a highway as I was making my way home from the neighboring town. Thanks to your channel, I'm more aware of my surroundings and sounds when I'm out and about in the woods taking photos of nature. I've seen some weird tree structures, but none that are teepee-like, just branches and sticks placed in weird patterns. My mind is full of curiosity and always has been. Thanks for making us all feel safe to share our stories and experiences. Jojo. You hear that? What was that? Eagle?
3 ravens.
Did I go right over my head?
Yeah.
It sounded like a pterodactyl. Would have freaked me out if I was by myself right now. Okay, let me see if I can get one more out, alright? So, man, it's starting to rain. Okay, this one won't take long. Let's get this one more out and we'll get out of here. I could sit here all day and read these things. First Nation puzzle piece for you again. Sounds good to me. It is JD again. Frog Clan, Decal from Northwest BC. I was the one who told you about the guy with goat legs at Fort St. James. Remember the story? So in the interest of helping your folks get back hunting and feel better, I'm going to tell you some privileged information about Sabbath, or as we say, Sesdolol. T-S-E-S-D-L-O-L. So Seslol. 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 There we go. That's as best as I can do it. I've included a link to a recording of the vernacular as spoken by an actual elder/medicine man who I know personally at the end of this, so you can hear how it's pronounced. I spoke with one and the same elder just this morning to ask on behalf of your folks how to deal with the PTSD of having your illusions of reality shattered and becoming too scared to go hunting again. First, I'll tell you what I know, and then I'll tell you what he said. What is PTSD? From a First Nation standpoint, in my personal tribe, we call it losing a piece of your spirit, the elders say. Don't frighten people. Always be careful in your dealings, because if you get scared, for example, from a car accident or other happenings, you can lose a piece of your spirit. I've had my spirit walk from me, and it was Jesus who brought it back. Now, as FNs grew up being told all this stuff, maybe not typically, but I was, I can't imagine how it is for non-natives who don't know and have their parents not believe them, or the people whom disassociate with each other forever after one of these experiences. That is harsh. So I can see why there is some serious cognitive dissonance in the minds of non-natives when it comes to this subject. Indeed, when I sent my first letter to you, I read some overwhelmingly positive comments, and I also read some comments that likened my contribution to some creepy past of BS, LOL. Helicopter. My heart is steadfast, though, and in the interest of helping people fix their PTSD, I will tell you more. Otherwise, I would just stay silent, because people like me get subjected to ridicule for our knowledge, as most of you are finding out. But I digress. Back to the point. If you lose a piece of your spirit because of trauma, it opens up a chance for something not of your being to jump on you and hitch a ride, so to speak. Your spirit might walk outside your body if you're in serious trouble, or a host of other not good things can happen. So there's a thing you have to do called calling your spirit back. Basically, you go back to the spot, smudge, and call your own name super loud over and over, then wash off in the river or lake. I spoke with the elder/medicine man just a minute ago before I sat to type this. Here's what he said. You have to go back to the spot where it happened. No dogs, no phones, no alcohol, no BS. You place a black cloth over your head and shoulders. You call out to it 4 times. 4 times, 4 times, 4 times. Then you have 2 friends walk the person home and lay them down in bed and cover them up. Let them sleep until they wake. No dogs, no TV, no phones, no BS. Please, please, folks, do not crap on my people's information in the comments or our beliefs. I think you're starting to finally find out that we are not just a bunch of jobless drunks, as we have been pointed to be. I love you all my relations. Yes, I believe in Jesus Christ, as my father's father did. Not because of residential school, which they all attended, but because of something much more profound. Do with this info what you will. Take it any way you want to take it, but do not point fingers and ridicule, or you are simply perpetrating the same behavior that keeps folks in PTSD in the first place. I do not have Stockholm Syndrome. There are many historical oral stories handed down that deal with creatures of far greater mystery than Sasquatch. I do know much about it, and I have much more info if anyone wanted to hear it. But out of respect for your main theme, I will just say, look to the Smithsonian Institute. Look into their archives. There's a lot there. They know stuff, guys. Okay, here's one of my personal encounter stories. When I was 16, I was with 6 friends at a sacred mound of our tribe. We were staying the night and doing some things we weren't supposed to be doing, smoking and drinking. Not proud of it, but that's what was happening. Something hit the cabin so hard it sounded like a Volkswagen plowed into it. I had a hunting knife with me and all my friends told me to go look. I didn't look at first, but finally mustered the gumption to go peek around the corner. Nothing was there. That night it screamed across the lake for hours. It was like a wailing, howling, long-winded, big old set of lungs. The next morning I asked an elder who happened to be there in a cabin next to us if he heard it too. He did. I asked, what was it? And he said Sasquatch, matter-of-factly. This was in '96, before cell phones and all that other stuff, so no recordings. Now, another off-topic story. My great-grandfather was Big Name Azane, learned elder, what they call hereditary chief. One day he was hunting rabbit down the lake shore. I do know the exact spot. When you hunt rabbit, you walk silently. He came into view of the bay, and there were 3 people there. The hair was so long that it reached into the bushes from where they were sitting on the shoreline. Their mouths were strangely wide. When they saw them, they disappeared into the water. For those of you with PTSD, there is power in the name of Jesus Christ. I used to do therapy in North Van and got a woman free of the psych ward in 5 sessions where psychiatrists had been baffled. I used his name to do it. I hope this helps in some way. God bless. I'm so reluctant to write these things and to espouse any of this, but this isn't about me. JD, sorry. P.S. Here's the link. All right, hopefully I remember to put this link in the description below, you guys. JD, I absolutely appreciate you, man. And anytime you get a chance, email me again, all right? Email me more. I want to learn everything. I want to hear it all, and especially if it helps the people, all right? Anyways, I'm trying not to rush, but I have to rush. It's starting to pour rain. I know Sarah's freezing, and the camera's getting soaked, and we gotta go. But I'll be back later with more, all right, you guys? Oh, here we go. All right.
The 3 went over your head. They were like low.
Well, I thought I was getting attacked by a pterodactyl.